And welcome everybody here on YouTube for Off the Hook Overtime. I made it, I think. Kyle, looks like you made it too.
Yes.
All right. And Rob T. Firefly, did we make it and are we on YouTube?
We made it. We are still catching up to our delay on YouTube.
Okay.
There we are. Okay, and we sound
Okay.
all right.
So YouTube is delayed. And Gila, I assume you have also made it over.
I have indeed, yes.
And Alex.
Yeah, barely here, but I'm here.
Barely here. Okay, well, it's good everybody is here. I just want to thank you all. You all told such interesting, moving stories, and that's why we do this. So we can share our accounts, our observations, our theories, our thoughts, and you all did a really amazing job on that on a very difficult subject. And now opening up the phone lines for listeners, 802-321-4225. We gave the number out on the air, so there's going to be extra competition for those
We already
people.
have.
Usually, we already have a phone
Yeah.
phone call, right?
Yeah.
I'll say good evening. You're on Off the Hook Overtime. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm going to do that again. I messed up. I didn't press the right button. I'm going to say good evening. You're on Off the Hook Overtime.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We hear you.
Yeah, thanks for doing the tribute. I really appreciate it. It's the kind of thing that your memories are very good. I wish I'd kept a diary or something, because obviously it's a lot of years have gone by. But I do recall I worked at for a company in Midtown, and it was in a skyscraper. And for several weeks after the attacks, we had to have a bag check before we entered the building, which obviously I was never expected that there'd come a time that there'd be some type of horrific incident that would require me to have my bag checked by security before I entered the building. So that was pretty weird.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I remember, I forget how long it was, but it seems to me that it must have been I think a week of programming on television where they had no commercial breaks. I don't know if any of you guys remember that, but I was watching, the local channels 247, and it seemed to me that I think it might have been at least 5 or 6 days where it was just straight reporting, where they didn't go to commercial break, and that was pretty weird. Do you guys remember that? That was just around-the-clock news coverage.
Yeah, well, who could break for a commercial in a crisis like that? Not only were the news networks, the cable news networks going, but local channels as well, because, it was New York. And I think pretty much every real TV station, and when I say real TV station, I mean, not what Channel 31 turned into. Which is an all, I don't know, cop show channel. Not what Channel 9 has become. They used to have news. They have nothing now. But the other ones, certainly. They wall-to-wall coverage.
And I got to say, I'm glad how the debate turned out yesterday, but I really, it bothers me that they had to do it right before the day before 9/11, because I really would have liked to have had a day of recollection that, obviously all the cable channels, it's wall-to-wall coverage of the debate, and nobody's even talking. They didn't even spend 30 seconds about the anniversary.
Well, that's what they did today.
9/11.
Today, they certainly did that. But yeah, I hear. But one thing that I was kind of surprised at during the debate was that they didn't pander to 9/11. Neither one did, really. I was expecting them to be, I'm a supporter of the 9/11 families more than you are. It wasn't even brought up, I don't think.
No, it wasn't. But I just feel, I remember last week you guys said you were going to do this. You were promoting this week's show. And I was thinking to myself, Gore Vidal once said that we're the United States of amnesia. And I think asking people for their recollections, I think, unfortunately, for many Americans and even many New Yorkers, this is like asking people for their recollections of the battles of Lexington and Concord, that it's just totally alien to them. And it does bother me that we haven't really found a way to preserve memories of this thing. It just kind of bothers me. I think in a couple of years, they won't even read the names, or if they read the names of the victims, they won't even cover it on the radio or on TV. It just kind of, I mean, people don't even remember January 6th or the COVID lockdown.
Oh, I think people remember January 6th. I think
well,
we've seen
I'm
evidence
saying-
of that.
No, but I mean, Trump has not faced the consequences.
No,
I
that's
mean,
certainly
he has
true.
a 50-50 chance of becoming president, even though he inspired an insurrection, and that should cause us a lot of grief, or cause us to pause.
Well,
but in any
the us is the problem. It's what's wrong with us, because right now it's in the hands of the people, and if the people actually elect someone like that, then you can't say media, you can't say politicians. You got to look at the people and say what's wrong with you.
Yeah. Well, I sent you guys a link to this great documentary if you haven't seen it. These two French brothers, documentary filmmakers, filmed New York City firehouse.
Yes, that was actually aired on CBS, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, if you haven't seen it in a while, I mean, it's definitely worth rewatching.
Yeah.
So thanks for doing this, and keep up the great work.
Thank you for your call.
Good night.
Take care. And our phone number 802-321-4225. If anyone has any stories of 9/11 they wish to tell us, or anything else really. Yes, Alex.
What was the documentary? I didn't get the gist of it. Or the reference.
It was a documentary that these French filmmakers were making about New York City firehouses, and they were making it on September 11th.
Wow.
When all hell broke loose. So they got remarkable footage. And it didn't air for a while because of the language that was in it. I don't mean French. I mean, 4-letter words and things like that. So once CBS was able to get past that, they aired it on TV. Go ahead, Gil.
We, in the chat, did mention to folks that we are inviting people to share their stories with us. I said, call in if you can. If you can't get through, or you'd feel more comfortable sharing it via text, you're absolutely welcome to put them in the chat. We've already got one from a listener named Larry, who says, on 9/11, I was working in an FAA building in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We watched the traces on the air traffic control network as all the other flights were grounded. Every TV was on CNN watching it unfold. We evacuated early, along with most of the rest of Boston.
Wow. Good recollection there.
I think something that came to mind is how different technology was at the time. So like finding out about it, these cable outlets and broadcasts in general were the way to find out as much information. I mean, I think SMS and some browsing features were available on the mobile phones of the era, but that was another thing that made that getting information and figuring out what it is difficult. But also I'm imagining how much time it took for the conspiracies and all of the like infodemic,
Not much time at all.
the like chaotic noise and incorrect, inaccurate stuff.
It's kind of like the politicians had the Patriot Act ready to go.
We were better off without that. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then that legal stuff, the like things that the fallout of it that was to come after.
Go ahead, Gila.
I was also thinking of a story my parents told me. My parents lived in Omaha, Nebraska at the time, and they were watching the national news feed, and there was a crawl of all the national sites that were closed, and things were, the airports and the national monuments and whatever, Disneyland. And they said, but there was also a local crawl of all the things that were closed, and that happened to be at the exact same time that the words on the national feed, Mall of America, closed. There was this teeny tiny mall in Council Bluffs, Iowa, that was almost dead 23 years ago. And at the same time as the words Mall of America closed were going across the screen, said Mall of the Bluffs closed, because that apparently was a place people were concerned about. And it was just everybody, no matter how far removed you were from New York City physically, I think everybody took on board that this felt like it was happening to all of us. And the Mall of the Bluffs in Council Bluffs, Iowa needed to be closed.
Is the Mall of the Bluff still around?
Give me one moment, please.
All right. I think we should all go.
And I'm wondering also, like, there are documentaries probably being made about January 6th, and the way we're interpreting media, a lot of these events are so covered. Like, there's a glut of coverage because there was so much that was filmed that the documentary, it was made by the actors or people there, and there was like some stuff that was aired, but I don't think there's an appetite for it, and there aren't a lot of outlets for it. It just seems like it's not been a subject matter people want to deal with because it is immediately a presidential cycle.
Interesting.
Before you start, though, Gila, I'd like to say one thing. Is that I do hope that somebody checked to see whether that mall was actually closed, because it could have been bluffing.
Gonna just fade you down for a little bit here, Alex, to get that out of your system.
I would like to confirm, though, that the Mall of the Bluffs was closed for the last time on December 31st, 2019.
Damn it.
Was demolished. There's more. It was demolished a year later. And to the best of my understanding, Menards has purchased the site and is going to be building a giant new store on the property.
Strike three. Okay. Well, you got to visit malls while you can, folks, because you don't know what you got till it's goes back to Wilderness or another store. Rob, do you have something?
Yeah, this is true. As I mentioned on the air, I was working at the mall in Massapequa at the time, which, as I understand it, is also no more nowadays. And there are some gauzy plans on what they want to do with that whole area.
Nothing sadder than an abandoned mall. Actually, no, there are plenty of things sadder than that. There's nothing sadder than a mall being constructed on Wilderness. That's the saddest part. And we've had enough damn malls, so we've done it. We've done malls. We're finished. All right, let's move on. Yes, Kyle.
Yeah.
There's a phone call.
Oh, there's a phone call. Okay. Let's take this next phone call. Good evening. You're on Off the Hook Overtime. Go ahead.
Yes, Emmanuel calling from a hackerspace, makerspace, a hackerspace.
And do you have any idea what the subject is tonight, Rebel?
I do. About the 9/11 thing. Now, I just want to mention of that one caller that said, no, everybody's forgetting. Look, everybody forgot about December 7th, didn't they? I mean, you know.
What, Pearl Harbor Day?
Remember. Yeah, we still remember.
Well, are we going to go back to the Battle of the Bastille? I mean, how much history do you want to cover?
I know. I'm just saying people kind of forgot that and kind of.
I don't think they forgot that. I think they just figured that's so damn far away that it's not relevant to this conversation.
Anyway, okay.
It's 1941. I mean, you know, I got the year right. I get credit for that, don't I?
We're almost a quarter of the way through this century.
Yeah, we're closer to 2041.
I just would like to point that out to everyone on a general basis.
That's scary. Wow.
Well,
Almost a quarter of the way through the century.
And the way things are remembered changes. That's something else I'm getting from the whole September 11th thing, the memorialization and what is memorialized, what is remembered,
right, and
how it's spoken, how different things are spoken through the language of it, and it is its own discourse, but the celebration, the remembrance, the memorialization changes through time. Yes. And it becomes just, I guess, ringing bells and saying names all day long. And will that change? Will that go on forever? I mean, different events have and evolved different traditions over time, and even those traditions can change.
Of course, and as well they should. I mean, you can't be doing the same thing for hundreds of years. I mean, some people believe that, but things change. Things become further back in history. Other things happen that replace them. You know what's weird, though? I realize we're living in the 20s, and no one says that. Why does nobody say it's the 20s?
It's roaring.
It's not roaring. No, the 1920s, yeah. But, I mean, even people don't say the 2020s, or they just don't say 20s. When I was growing up in the 70s, we said this is the 70s, and boy, did they suck. I remember that. It's just boring. It's apathetic. Nobody's doing anything interesting. The 60s, that was cool. Maybe the 80s would be better. But the 70s, man, what a waste of time. We said that back then, but I don't hear anybody talking about the 20s.
I think there's probably two reasons for that. One is that when you say the 20s, people definitely still think the 1920s.
Do they? Really?
I think so. And number two, if you're going to say the 2020s, that's odd. Okay, and now there's a third reason, which is that 2020 as a year sucked so hard and so bad in so many ways that we don't want to invoke its memory in that way.
So you're saying just because of the pandemic, the whole decade has been sacrificed? I don't think that's fair. I don't think,
I don't
you know,
think it's just because of the pandemic.
the
There was
first-
a lot of crap went down in
the
2020.
first two decades, you know, we didn't have names for those either. We didn't call them the aughts, even though people are doing that now. We didn't call them the teens. I didn't hear anybody say, oh, we're in the teens now. I mean, what's going on? The 1900s, we had this figured out. It was the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Here, we can't seem to get started.
Did you not hear people calling it the Audis?
Never. And if they did, I
then-
dismissed them immediately as being obnoxious.
I think they don't say it because they're saying it every time they reference the date. Like when you write the date, you're saying 2024 or
Out loud?
well, I think when people are talking about today's date or the year, you're saying it's 2024 then
Yeah,
in
but-
that year.
But what I said
You're
about
not saying
this,
it's the 2024.
about living through the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, we said it then while we were living through it. We're not saying it. I don't know. There's no decade pride anymore. I think that's my point. Oh, you know, I forgot Rebel. Sorry, Rebel. We put you
Oh
on
yeah,
hold.
we should.
I'm
finish
so
up
sorry about it. I went
his
off on a
thought,
tangent
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Okay. Did you know that Google is getting rid of Google Voice? They're doing away with Google Voice.
I like the way you say Google for some reason. Yeah, that's my reaction too. Can you repeat all of that? Because I just got sort of distracted
Okay.
by that. Go ahead.
When I went to the Google store on 10th Avenue or whatever it is,
Oh,
near their main office, or they're not main office, but near their Google.
stop saying
New
it,
York City
please. It's
office.
just making it worse.
Okay.
Okay, so you
10th
go by.
Avenue in like 13th Street, whatever.
Uh-huh.
I went there and I said, my Google Voice isn't working. They said, well, we're doing away with Google Voice.
Are you using your Google Voice right now, Rebel?
No, I'm
Is
not
this-
using Google Voice.
What
This
voice
my
is this
regular
you're
phone.
using? Because I don't think it's your Google Voice.
No.
I
They're
have
getting rid of the Google Voice service.
Stop saying it.
I
My
have
God.
I have some experience with this. I actually had a number that I was using, and they had this game where if you didn't use it enough, they would threaten to take it back from me.
Uh-huh.
And eventually, they just took it.
they took your phone number away.
And I haven't talked to the person that has it now. I'm sure they're loving it.
I did by accident.
Yeah, you accidentally contacted them. It's a whole long thing, but
Well, you had a WhatsApp account, I think, attached to it, right?
all right, I don't want to get into
And then
exactly
I
how
tried to
all right,
contact
all
you
right.
on WhatsApp. I
It's-
wound up talking to this complete stranger who now knows all your friends and family and is more
I
beloved
told
than
you the
are.
perils of WhatsApp.
Yeah, that's
don't
what-
don't
your identity has been stolen.
wait.
Kyle.
I don't use it for anybody I know, but anyway, this person ended up knowing you because that's not the point.
Oh.
The point is they took it back, and it doesn't surprise me that they're I don't know what the game is. They want, I guess, content over it. Like they want all your voicemails and all your conversations, and if you're not using it that frequently, if it's just sitting, they want to, I guess, allocate that to somebody else who
I think
will
they just,
use it
they
that
just
way.
want the phone number back if you're not using the phone number. You know, if you make a phone call, I think that would have counted.
But if it's a free service, why do you have to keep using it? Like it seems like you're.
It's free to you. I don't think they just conjured a number up out of thin air. I think they had to do something to get the number. And
Okay, but it wasn't like that kind of thing to begin with. So
No.
I'm just relating
Yeah.
to the fact that it might be going away because it seems like they didn't really want to allow you to have it and use it the way you want.
Well,
Because the
no.
way I want is not using it all the time.
right. But they'll be sunsetting it, I'm sure, as they say.
I mean, what else do you know about this going away? Because good riddance is what I have to say.
Uh-huh. Well, you know, we're using Google Voice right now.
Are we?
This phone number is a Google Voice number. Yes, Gila.
Yeah,
You're
but
waving
this
your-
is what they want. They're happy, so they're not threatening you, right?
Gila is waving her hand frantically and
Oh,
jumping,
sorry,
jumping
Gila.
up and down. Go ahead.
No, I am waving my hand frantically because it appears that they're not ending Google Voice. They're just changing it slightly. Legacy Google Voice is being sunsetted.
It'll be a more
But-
higher pitched Google Voice. Am I correct?
Yes. No,
Okay, wow, gee whiz. I mean, what I have all the words and none. Like,
So
why do I care what they are doing? Oh, you know what? It doesn't apply to me. I don't care.
but I think that the rumors of Google Voice's demise are slightly exaggerated, if not just full out not a thing. So Rebel, you may have been misinformed.
Oh, Manuel?
Yes. Did you hear what Gila said to you?
I kind of hear she was very low, but I want to just make a point that my Google Voice number stopped working. Then when I asked the people at the Google store, they said they're doing away with Google Voice, or they're doing away with some service, maybe the phone number service or something. So I'm just telling you guys because I know you use Google Voice.
There are Google stores? I've never been to a Google store.
There's a Google store on 9th Avenue and 14th Street by the Google Voice.
Wow. Okay, I'll have to go there and taunt them a bit. But well, I wouldn't believe everything you're told.
Okay, well, that's what they told me, that they're doing away with the service. That's why my Google phone number stopped working. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is that at the 2600 meeting, I used my laptop Wi-Fi, that the building, the city called building's Wi-Fi. They blocked 2600 from being viewed on their Wi-Fi.
Who is this that blocks it?
The city court, the building where the Hue is, the city court people.
Right.
When you go on their Wi-Fi, you cannot go to 2600 on that Wi-Fi.
Wow. Well, I mean, we're familiar with this. There's a lot of companies that block us and say that, we're a hacking site and all that. When really we're not. We have this show is on our site
Right,
and not much else.
That if you tether on your phone, or if you go to another Wi-Fi like the Link New York City, if you could get that, you'll be able to go to 2600. Now, when I went to the Best Buy store today, I went to the app where they had the little Macintosh, they may have 2 or 3 Macintoshes, Apple computers.
Okay.
They do not let you go to 2600. But when I tethered it on my phone, they still don't let you go to 2600. When I went on another Wi-Fi, like you could look at what Wi-Fi hotspots there are. When I went to another, I found a free one that I don't know, I think there was a Starbucks there, and I went on their website, their Wi-Fi, because they were right near. So I went on Starbucks website. Still no 2600.
No, wait.
How do they do that?
I know Starbucks goes to 2600. I've used them. They're AT&T, I think.
I tethered on my phone to this Apple computer at Best Buy. It still doesn't go to 2600.
Alex, you look like you're in a Starbucks. Can you check this for us?
No, Starbucks, when I go to Starbucks, you could go to 2600 on Starbucks on their Wi-Fi, but it's just at Best Buy on these Apple computers.
Wait, what? Does anybody understand what he said? You can go there at Starbucks, but what?
But you can't go there on the Apple computers at Best Buy.
Well, why do you
Even
bring up
if you go
Starbucks
to
then? Why are we talking about Starbucks?
Because if you go to Best Buy's, they're all hooked onto Best Buy's Wi-Fi. I figured, okay, I can't go to 2600 on Best Buy's Wi-Fi. I'll go to Starbucks Wi-Fi, or I'll tether it on my Wi-Fi on my cell phone. Still, you can't go to 2600.com. How does that work?
I don't understand what you're doing. Does anybody here understand what he's doing? Can someone speak up? Okay, we're all clueless apparently. We have no idea what you're doing.
Okay.
You're somehow using Starbucks while you're in Best Buy?
No, I'm going to, all right. At the 2600 meeting, I go to their Wi-Fi. You cannot go to 2600 website on their Wi-Fi. If you tether it on your cell phone, or if you go to another Wi-Fi hotspot that's nearby, you would be able to.
That's not surprising. They have a lot of electronics. Next place.
That's Best
Okay,
Buy. Now, how does Starbucks enter into this? Please tell me.
Because if I go to Starbucks or, let's say, Chicopee or something or another Wi-Fi hotspot, then still, if I'm at Best Buy, I'm using their computers or their Apple's or their whatever computers they have on display. You will still not be able to go to 2600.
Okay, you're
website.
saying if you use a computer that belongs to Best Buy and you
Right.
use Starbucks Wi-Fi network,
Or-
it'll still
or
be
anybody
blocked
else.
because it's
Right, or
blocked.
anybody else.
Because they have it apparently set to the machine or to their internal network, regardless of what. Rob, do you have something to add to this?
Yeah, I hate to derail the discussion and completely change the subject, but Rebel, I know that you're a local guy, and you and I knew each other back at that point. I wondered if perhaps you were comfortable sharing your thoughts about what happened on September 11th, 2001, and what was going on with you.
Well, I will after we answer this question.
Wow. Okay.
I know where I was.
You're digging
I know
in your
where I
heels.
was. I could tell you where I was, but after we answer
Well,
this.
what do you want us to do about this? We can't fix the
Okay.
problem.
Okay. No. I'm not asking you. I'm just wondering how it works. Is that if I have a laptop, I'm at the 2600 meeting, and I log on to Citicorp's Wi-Fi or the Hughes Wi-Fi or whatever it is, and I go to my Google Chrome browser and type 2600.com. It does not work.
Okay, so
So
what
if
what I think the answer here is, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're encountering a network block or blacklist of our site that when you connect to a particular Wi-Fi network. When you connect to a particular Wi-Fi network, you find that it's blocked. Now, the same
Right.
thing can also be set on a local network. That means if you're using a computer inside a store that belongs to them, regardless of what network you connect that computer to, it can also be blocked. If, however, you walked in there with your laptop, you walked into Best Buy with your laptop and connected that to Starbucks, you should be able to get through.
Right.
All right.
I was
we solved it.
wondering how they do it on their network, like whatever
It's a
Wi-Fi
setting.
network you choose.
It's a setting.
Oh, so you could set it so that your browser doesn't go to certain websites.
You're
locally?
using their computer, right?
Yeah,
Right.
It's not your browser.
they have
Right, it's
control over that
Safari.
network,
Yeah, they have.
so they can implement all kinds of whatever they want and impose that on the customers that are in most cases just the general public who could be going to places they're not interested in them navigating to, so they
I
control
see.
it
They can-
in their network.
They can program their computer to start flashing a red light and blaring a siren if you type 2600. They can do that. It's their computer.
So they take all 5 computers or 6 computers or however many Apple computers they have there and go on Safari on each of them and go to the settings on Safari.
I don't know
use
exactly
on-
how they do it. It might just be something system wide that no matter what browser you use, don't go to this particular IP or this
What do you mean
particular domain name.
system-wide? But what do you mean system-wide?
The system that they have in Best Buy for all of their computers, which I assume
Yeah.
they all go through the same system.
Depending on the OS, they could have their own firewalls implemented in the operating system, and if they
It's
orchestrate that
Apple.
when they
They're
install
using
it.
Apple. They're using Apple.
Okay, well they can use Apple to do that easily. Rob, you have something else as a second
Yeah,
request for Rebel to tell a story, or
Well, there is software for retail establishments and that sort of use case where you have a computer that's there for demonstration, or for if you're running a Wi-Fi network that people might connect their own devices to, and it's always a feature of that software that you can decide to block certain sites, or you could decide to block categories of sites, or you could use a block list, which might be a commercial thing or a free thing or whatever, or some kind of list they can subscribe to say, here's all the sites that have to do with hacking that you can block. Here's all the sites that have to do with adult content that you can block. And a lot of them just automatically use these lists and block things wholesale. And you can do that on, the local machine. You can do that on the local network. It can happen anywhere along the process between the screen you're looking at and the open internet, because they own every step of that system inside, the computer, the network, everything. And it's very, very common for retail establishments to block anything that they might worry that might be found objectionable, quote unquote.
let me try and explain this in a way Rebel might be familiar with. Let's say that you're calling us. We can set Google Voice or whatever we're using to block your number so it never gets to us. Now, if for some reason we don't do that and we see your number showing up on caller ID, we can opt not to pick it up. You see, there's two different ways to block you. There's many ways to block you.
Okay, so basically the city code, getting back to the city code thing, that's just the network doing that. That's just their Wi-Fi.
It sounds like their Wi-Fi. Yeah, because you're not using their computer.
You could go to a proxy, but you go to a proxy and get around it?
Well, I mean, why don't you just connect to a different Wi-Fi network?
What? VPN. Oh, your VPN? You could use a VPN?
I don't know. In some cases, yes. Some cases, it's not a problem.
But you could be, the more you're doing on their systems, the more you got to wonder, like, okay, how much more are they interested in what's going on here? And you're obviously in their store, so there could be cameras, and then the actions you take if you're installing software onto these systems while you're there, you are then running on the clock basically before someone takes an interest in you modifying what is there, which is essentially the hardware. And even if you got down to that, like reinstalling something or doing something quick enough, you're better off probably just plugging right into their wall. And even then you'd be detectable and, probably be limited in whatever you're appearing to be on their network. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of things you could be doing, but you're already getting the warning that they care about what people have their hands on in store.
And, the easiest thing, though, is if you have network on your phone, simply tether to your phone and connect that way.
Right, yeah, that's in the city court building. That you could do.
That's anywhere.
But because, right, not in Best Point, because I tried tethering it on my phone.
No,
it won't work.
Listen, it's your phone network. It's, you're using your phone company, you're tethering to your phone. It's not going to be affected by a block in Best Buy or Starbucks or anywhere.
No, it will. I just tried it today. I used the Apple computer.
I don't think you're doing it right then.
That's when the block list is in the Apple computer that you're using. Yeah. So no matter what you connect it to, it won't see what you want it to see there.
If you're using your laptop and it's tethered to your phone and your phone is using your phone network to connect, the only blocks that you will experience are blocks that your phone company has installed, which I don't believe include us.
No, I'm talking about tethering. At the Citibank, the 2600 meeting, to go around their Wi-Fi thing, you could just go to other Wi-Fi hotspots if you want to.
Yeah, your phone being one of them.
Your phone being one of them,
all right?
Or you could go on a VPN, right?
Yeah. Do you have a 9/11 story for us or not?
Yeah, but I just want to ask.
No, we're done with this. Quickly, 9/11, or you're going to have to wait for the next one.
Okay. Let's see. I was doing my laundry. I slept late.
That's the whole story?
Yeah.
Never disappoint, Rebel. Thank you for your call. Good night. Interesting topic, though. I was up early, too, and I'm never up early, and you can't wake me up with a phone. You can't wake me up by calling me to tell me to turn on a TV set. So how did I see 9/11 as it was unfolding? I was on jury duty that week. Yeah, so I had to be up early. That doesn't happen very often. And then jury duty got canceled. We have another phone call? All right. Good evening. You're on Off the Hook Overtime. Go ahead.
Is it me?
Please turn down your radio or computer or whatever it is that's blaring in the background.
I'm trying. There.
Right.
Okay.
All right, cool.
So, so I guess it's me. Well, one comment. How appropriate that Rebel would hijack the transmission or program.
Too soon. Too soon. Way too soon.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. In any case, you know what else I was going to say. But the topic, can we get back on the topic that you were treating in the program, which sounded rather interesting?
We can try.
That's really what I wanted to say. I want to hear what else you have up your sleeve.
Well, we've already revealed our sleeves, so it's your turn now.
I know, but what I mean is there going to be more discussion of that? If
people discuss, you're a person, so yes, you're invited to discuss where you were on that day.
No, this is not what was being discussed on the radio. Or did you just say that now this is the topic for overtime and I missed the first few minutes?
I'm not sure you listened to the right station. We were talking about 9/11, where
I
people
was listening to BAI,
where people
and you
were
having a rather interesting conversation.
Okay, Alex, I think you have something to contribute here. Go ahead.
I think the caller is referencing what we discussed at the end of the program, which was that Russian influence operation.
Oh,
right?
the last couple of minutes of the show. Okay, well, the whole show was pretty much something else. But
you said you were going to continue on overtime.
Okay,
with the
fair enough.
videos and the contributions and all that.
So
more of that, please.
Okay, well,
I do remember very well where I was, but I think that's a little more interesting.
Well, it is. It's not necessarily a choice between the two, but yeah, it's this is something that happened last week, and it was basically charges laid out by the Justice Department saying that that this particular company is working as part of a Kremlin orchestrated influence operation, which was targeting the current election. And it's linked to right-wing commentators, millions of subscribers on YouTube, other social media platforms. I mean, I think we got the gist of it out. That's what was happening here. Alex, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think this is a really fascinating story because it goes and shows you the length to which other nations can go and will go in order to try to influence people on social media. And social media is such an influence operation attack vector, and there are so many open holes in this. There's basically no defense against any of this, right? Because the whole thing is motivated by money, and basically through proxy, the Kremlin was able to utilize a husband and wife couple to pay influencers that had millions and millions of followers and subscribers on social media platforms. I think the total was like a little over 6 million or something, which is, I believe, more than the circulation of the New York Times. And all it took was a little bit of money for them to parrot whatever seemingly ridiculous and far-right political ideals the Russians wanted to espouse that would sow dissent in this country and benefit Donald Trump to become the next president of the United States. So it's a really, I think, scary story, and goes to show you why social media is such a scourge on this country.
I just want to point out the value is really that relative reach through those that audience that's built into those actors they're paying, and it's a weird thing. I think that the people that are enticed by this are in different circumstances themselves, and money is money. So for them, it may have been a windfall for the little effort it would have taken to produce content as they were already, and not think of the reach they're gaining, the entity that is that they're becoming the mouthpiece for through this transaction. And it really isn't that much money, and you have to really have the kind of, I think, ability to think critically before you know, or otherwise before you know it. I mean, the entity behind things you're working on might not be who you think they are. If you're sort of kind of caught up in your own bravado, and especially in this vector, which is a visual and new and sort of richer medium that has a lot to do with sort of popularity and less technical things, less verifiable things, these sort of personality value and ability for people to cash in on that in this way. It's really just they're setting up cameras, they're establishing themselves through this low cost streaming ability and whatever other publications and things they're working through, but the production costs are low enough, so if they're enticed, they can become the arm of interested parties who are willing to pay that and pay much more.
Now, if I can just say, we've been talking about the influencers, the people who actually make the videos, but the founders are pretty much the ones being implicated here as well. Tenet Media's U.S.-based founders, they're not named in the indictment, but they certainly should be, I think. Business records filed in Tennessee reveal two people connected to the company, Lauren Chen and Liam Donovan. A Twitter account for Donovan identifies him as the president of Tenet Media, and his Instagram account describes Donovan as Chen's husband. A private message between the two in May of 2021 reads as follows. So we're billing the Russians from the corporation, right? 2 weeks later, another message said, also, the Russians paid, so we're good to bill them for the next month, I guess. My God. It's not that they're criminals here. It's just that they're bad at it. They're really bad at covering things up. Chen is a right-wing online influencer in her own right. She has appeared in some of Tenet Media's videos, has more than 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. The Russian state-controlled media RT lists Chen as a contributor for several articles in 2021 and 2022. She's also linked to the conservative youth organization Turning Point USA. As of Thursday afternoon, Turning Point USA had deleted web pages featuring Chen. A YouTube video referenced in the indictment further describes Tenet Media as a project of Lauren Chen and her husband, Liam. And then Blaze Media, a subset of the Glenn Beck-founded conservative outlet, has since fired Chen. So it's a whole big kerfuffle here. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, the element of this I'm finding particularly entertaining is in the article about this, it quotes a couple of the influencers who are saying that, oh, we're obviously the victims in this situation. We didn't know that, this was the Russians were paying for this and whatever. But that doesn't acquit you because if you're being given things by a foreign power trying to spread disinformation to say, and you're being paid for that, okay, that's crappy. But if the product you genuinely make and the thing you intentionally put out there as your own work is worth paying for by a Russian or, any foreign actor who is intentionally spreading disinformation, that means you're the disinformation. And either way, you're the baddies.
Okay, so let me ask Alex this. What is the crime exactly? Because if it's spreading disinformation, doesn't Trump do that every time he says anything?
Yes. The crime, I believe, was that they failed to register as a foreign agent under FARA, the Foreign Agent Registration Act. So if you are acting on behalf of a foreign power in the United States, you need to register as a foreign agent. And they didn't do that, and the failure to do that is a federal crime.
So, if they had set up Tenet in such a way that it was disassociated from wherever their funding source was, then this sloppiness may not have gotten them caught.
Well, that's right, and that's why
they registered and Tenet was squeaky.
Yeah, if they registered as a foreign agent, then they couldn't be charged under FARA.
But who would believe them then if it became known they were working for a foreign government?
Well, right, and that's why that text message was so important, which was because they identified that they knew at the time that they were working for the Russians.
So how is it they're not charged? The founders.
I think they are.
No, the founders were not named in the indictment.
Oh,
maybe they're cooperating.
Yeah,
they're the ones that did it. They're the founders.
Well, the media company wasn't even referenced or mentioned.
That's true.
Yeah,
it was unnamed. CNN figured out who it was.
Chen and the other person were charged, but I guess they weren't. And it's just that the influencers themselves. But I guess it would still be the same charge. But it seems like it would have been much more relevant for the owners of Tenet Media to have been charged under FARA, given that text message. Anyhow, yeah. But I'd be curious. I'm sure there's other charges as well. Probably some kind of obstruction of something or another, and I don't know, a conspiracy or something like that.
Well, I'd like to read what the influencers said. Let's see. We are disturbed by the allegations in today's indictment, which makes clear that myself and other influencers were victims in this alleged scheme. That is They only have the last name Johnson. What was Johnson's first name? Boy, they spread it out through this whole story. I don't know what Johnson's first name is. Tim Pool, on the other hand, said, should these allegations prove true, I, as well as the other personalities and commentators, were deceived and are victims. So, I mean, that's the playbook. That's what they're going by. They're the victims here, the ones that get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to make videos because they claim they would have just made them anyway.
I wonder in the case of like hackers for hire and like how we look at this and like do we sympathize in that case if someone unwittingly is like offering services or doing something for hire and they didn't actually kind of look into it and realize who was actually interested in the kind of work they were doing. I think there's a lot of these kinds of perils because this information space is being used in sort of a weaponized way. And I don't have as much sympathy, or I just, like you said, it's a play, because a lot of what they say, I mean, they're saying this with their chest, like they're really serious about a lot of the things they've espoused. It's not like they're unaware of the context of their words, and then to do it for hire like this and then be surprised when they don't.
I'm sorry, Carla, did you have something to add?
Yes. You know, as you said, it's a playbook, and I wonder if they weren't just, you know, just in case we get caught, this is the excuse, but they knew perfectly well who they were working for, and they didn't care in the best case scenario. In the worst case scenario, they were accomplices with the media company, and not just, you know, unwitting participants. And I wonder if the FBI is going after them for that. The other thing, and Alex may confirm this as a legal expert, part of the indictment, including the names, may have been sealed for whatever reason. Is that possible, Alex?
Yes, it's definitely possible, especially if they were some kind of cooperating witness. There's likely a number of documents that the public aren't going to be able to see on this. So I think you're absolutely right about that, caller. And also, I've realized as well that did a little bit of research. It turns out that the Justice Department doesn't actually allege any wrongdoing of the influencers. It actually accuses 2 employees of RT, the television station Russia Today, of funneling about $10 million to a Tennessee-based company, that's that Tenet company, for the Russian-friendly content. So it's these 2 employees of RT that are charged.
So maybe the influencers themselves are cooperating to help with that, and they get to say they had no idea. And
does anyone believe that these people just were blithely making videos, collecting $100,000 checks, and had no idea who they were working for, and we're supposed to believe them, and they don't get charged with anything while helping a hostile government override the election here?
That's what I mean. Like, if this is part of the fifth domain, if this is part of an attack surface, how is this cool? How are we chill?
Well, let's at least destroy their reputation, you know? I mean, their actions kind of do that for them.
I'd like to take it a step further. There is no direct connection to the Trump campaign, but, you know, in the woodwork, this quote Tennessee company has been connected, and the wife was an executive on whatever conservative, I forget the code name, but Trump has been working with these entities and then denying any accountability. And, you know, this is an old project of mine. I would like to start a RICO case against the Republican Party. It's a racketeering institution that is trying to deny people their rights to vote on a gigantic scale, and unfortunately we'll see that on November 7th or 8th, I forget the exact date. But they've been working for years for this. This is, you know, no better than the actual mob. So they should be prosecuted with this law that is on the book and has been on the book. What do you think, Alex?
No disrespect to the mob, by the way. We have to be careful.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I can certainly appreciate the sentiment of the caller, but I think it would be near impossible to invoke the RICO statute against the Republicans. I just think it's you need to prove a lot of coordination, and also I think it's just like Emmanuel said, it's almost insulting to the mafia. It almost seems like they're so discoordinated in some ways, and it just has this disastrous result on civil rights. It just kind of happens to be that way. But I can appreciate the sentiment though behind that.
Well, I hope that was enough discussion for you, and thanks for getting us to talk about it.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. At least you heard it here first. As I said, it's an old idea of mine. I would love to keep going.
All right. Well, best of luck with that, and we'll definitely be in the courtroom cheering you on. Okay, we have time for, I think, one more phone call. 802-321-4225, 802-321-HACK. This is Overtime, coming your way every Wednesday, 8 p.m. after Off the Hook on WBAI, which you should support. Give to WBAI.org so we can have all kinds of conversations that get transmitted throughout the New York metropolitan area, as they did 23 years ago. We have another phone call. Good evening. You're on Off the Hook Overtime. Go ahead.
Good evening, gang. This is Tim in Connecticut. How are you today?
Hey, Tim in Connecticut. How are you?
Not too bad. A couple of quick stories about 9/11. I was working nights at the time. My nephew from Chicago calls me to ask me to turn on the TV. And that's how I was presented with it. But one other story, I had to fly for work a couple of weeks later. And on the way back, I happened to be sitting in a row with a military person. And we were chatting, because of the current events. And he had made mention that he was a pilot. And he was flying that day, or the next day, I believe it was. And he said the thing that he will remember most of all is the fact that when you're in the air, with military hardware, you can see almost everybody. And he said that only military IDs were in the air. And it was very, very spooky that this once crowded airspace was just so empty.
Yeah, I remember that day when I was going back the next morning after going into Manhattan to presumably do a show I never got to do. Pretty much out all night with friends, and it was dawn when I was going back through Queens, and I just remember how quiet it was. There was nothing in the sky, maybe an occasional military plane because the airspace was completely closed throughout the country, and that was bizarre and weird and kind of a once in a lifetime thing.
Or Queens,
Mm-hmm.
or LaGuardia.
Most definitely not.
And as far as the people accepting money from various sources, maybe they were taking, I don't know, maybe the new policy in government where it's not a bribe if it's before, it's a tip when you do it afterwards.
Yeah, I think they might have gotten paid before, though. I'm not sure. That would have been good advice.
You don't care where it comes from if you're bending the rules, if you've gone that far.
I just think at the very least, can we just never believe anything these people say again? Because I agree. This is their integrity level.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I just wanted to pass that on. I'll let other people get on the line.
All right, well, good to hear from you. Take care.
Good chatting with you guys again. Have a great night.
Bye-bye. I did say that was the last call, but it was a short call, so I don't know. I have a couple of minutes.
That's right.
We should set a hard end time for this show.
He got off the line so someone else could talk.
Like 9 o'clock, we're done. Because sometimes we go to like 9:30, sometimes we end at 8:30. But if we just say it's going to go to 9 o'clock, maybe Overtime gets the same level of respect as Off the Hook. We have 4 minutes and 30 seconds. That's a disadvantage.
Well, remember when we would do the 2-hour shows in WBAI and the station? And to me, it always felt like a really long time. But I feel like we do these 2-hour shows now almost every week.
I guess you weren't around for the 3-hour shows we did occasionally.
Maybe I was at some point. I'm sure.
It's all in the archive, 2600.com/offthehook, and we have another phone call. Oh, joy. We We have it connected, Kyle? Okay. And good evening. You're on Off the Hook Overtime. Go ahead.
I just wanted to share my 9/11 story.
Please do.
I was a student at Manhattan Borough of Manhattan Community College, BMCC, and I had a late night class the night before 9/11, and my class ended I want to say 8:30 or something, and I had to make a phone call. So I went into that building, the 9/11 building. This is late at night. They used to have phones on the first floor.
Wait, you mean the World Trade Center when you say the 9/11
The World Trade Center, yeah.
Okay, I remember all those phones and the escalators near them, and yeah, I remember this.
Yeah. So I went in there to make some telephone calls, and while I was there, somebody I knew from high school, he came out of the escalator, and he works in the building. He works on top in that building. And I was like, wow, I haven't seen him in a long time, and we were shaking hands, and I was like, wow, he works up there. And we got to talking, and I was curious. I was like, I've never been up there before. He says he works on the higher floors. And while we're talking, he asked me if I want to see what it's like. He was like, well, you want to see what it's like? You want a tour? I was like, yeah, sure, I'd love it. I've never been up there before. So we got back on the elevator, and we went up there. We went up to I don't even know what floor it was. It was very, very high up there. And I remember looking through the window. I was like, wow, this is like I'm flying in the air. I remember commenting that I've never been this high in any building before. It's like the furthest up I've ever been. And I was looking out the window, and it was just surreal. And then that was it. And then I just went back down, and I went home. And then the next day, this building was knocked down. It was blown up. And I was thinking, I was calling this guy. I didn't know this guy. This is a guy I hadn't seen him since high school. So, and I started looking for his number because I was thinking, gee, I wonder what happened. And he wouldn't answer the phone. And I was just calling because we exchanged numbers that day. And but eventually I was able to get in touch with him something like maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks after, a long time after. And I thought he was dead, honestly. I thought something happened to him because I was like, this is just so strange. I just saw him the night before. I wonder what happened. And it turned out he was okay, though. He lived and he was fine. But I also got a job. After the 9/11 thing happened, I happened to get a job, some type of a transport job. We were driving around vans, like the rescue people and all the work that we're doing out the, removing debris and all that kind of stuff. And I had a night job that I was doing there. And I recently found out that they're actually having these things, almost like, I don't know if it's a lawsuit, but they're actually compensating people who worked there, who worked at this 9/11 site. And I saw this on Facebook. This law firm was like, hey, listen, if you worked at 9/11, if you worked at that site back then, you should contact us because, we may be able to compensate you for whatever. So I did. I started looking for my pay stubs to see if, maybe I have a pay stub from back then, and I found one. And I contacted this law firm, and they said, hey, you may be able to get some money for whatever. So I just recently started that, and let's see what happens. Let's see where that goes. I don't know,
Well, have you been affected physically by being down there?
I haven't been affected, and I'm not going to say that I ever was. I was saying to myself, I'm not going to be one of these people who's going to make up stories because that's bad. That's bad karma. I'm not going to say I have whatever.
Right.
But that's bad.
Well, you'd have to prove it too, some other way, I'm sure. But I don't know what the legal aspects of this is. You might still be entitled to something just for having put yourself through that. That's certainly possible.
And I may have something in the future. I mean, I'm just in my 40s. I'm still, I guess, relatively young, I suppose. But,
you are one of the luckiest people I think I've ever talked to. I mean, you got to see the top of the World Trade Center the day before it was destroyed. Your
surreal.
Your friend survived, and thank God you're healthy after working on the site. So I hope your luck continues.
Yeah, I know. Very weird. But I just wanted to share that story. I enjoyed your show, though.
I think Alex has a question. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, and you must have been, because you were at BMCC, right? Is that over in Tribeca, I think?
Yeah. They used to have a building that I'm not sure if that building's still there. We used to call it F-Man building, Fitterman Hall building. And it was that building, it was just right next door to the World Trade Center.
Yeah, it's like right there. Yeah.
And I went to school. I was just my class just ended just the night before. It was just strange. It was just weird. I was just telling everybody, I was just in that building just a few hours ago. Literally, let's say 12 hours later, the building was gone. It was just weird.
Unbelievable.
It was just strange. Very sad. Very
Wow.
sad. I kept thinking all those people I seen in the building when I was going up that, when I was in there. I wonder how many of them lived. I kept thinking, I wondered, so probably a ton of them were dead. You know, it was just surreal.
Well,
Surreal.
night shift. I don't know. Maybe they weren't supposed to come in till later. I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely history that we all lived through.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Enjoyed the show. All right.
Take care. That's great call to end on, I think.
Wow.
What a
That's
lot of
extraordinary
a
story.
lot of good stories. Even Rebel's story was touching in a way. What was it? 3 words? Yeah. But
Oh my God.
I'm just glad we have each other to talk to and share these memories, albeit unpleasant memories, but also comforting just to be able to tell our stories. And again, everybody you know has a story, whether it's about this or something else, and talking to them is an important thing. So, any final words before we sign off for the night?
Choose your cyber gangs wisely.
Yes, that's something we should say every week.
Act with empathy and kindness, and also vote with them.
Okay, good. I feel like pressure's on now for everybody to say something wise.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with what Rob said.
Yeah,
that sounds good.
Yeah, so what
Yeah.
Rob said is fine.
Yep.
Yeah, indeed.
All right. Again, OTH at 2600.com is our email address. We'll see you next week. Good night.